Apple is selling hearing aids now. Cyberpunk continues to never let us down, and RIP to the GOT. I'm gonna miss these things. Let's get into the hot news, everybody. I'm your Brett host. We're gonna be going over the hottest tech news I can find on the internet while you enjoy your breakfast this Friday, September 13th, 2024. Yes, that's right, Friday the 13th, but just a reminder that on Thursday the 26th, we're going to be having a community day here in Pittsburgh to celebrate our charity stream that we're doing between the 23rd and the 30th. It's going to be at Resonine Esports here in Pittsburgh, PA. If you can join us, the tentative times right now are around 1 p.m. to 9 p.m. We'd love to have you out. We're still planning a lot of stuff with the charity stream, but I hope you can make it if you can. If you can't, well, don't worry about it. And if you can't hear particularly well, but you don't need full-blown hearing aids, Apple's Airpods Pro 2s now have their hearing aid feature approved by the FDA. This is something that they showed off in their latest iPhone event, that this was coming, going to be available in various different countries, and now the Food and Drug Administration here in the United States has approved their OTC hearing aid feature over the counter, and saying that the results also showed comparable performance for tests measuring levels of amplification in the ear canal, as well as a measure of speech understanding and noise. Additionally, that there were no observed adverse events from using these as over-the-counter hearing aids. So this is quite accessible. It's a good feature that Apple's bringing out in case you have these and you have minimal hearing loss. This is something that was kind of approved by the FDA, kind of similar to how you can get reading glasses at like any grocery store in America. You should now start to be able to get these over-the-counter hearing aids that maybe aren't as expensive for people who have significant hearing loss, but rather just a smaller amount. And for people who have gotten to test it, they say that it is as quick and easy as Apple is making it seem like it's supposed to be. It's about 5 minutes to set up, and then your AirPods Pro can actually interpret the world around you for you to be able to hear. But as you're trying to interpret the world of the internet around you, you should check out today's video sponsor. What's better than security? Premium security. And today's sponsor, Bitdefender. Bitdefender offers unbeatable multi-layered protection for all of your devices, including Android, Windows, Mac, and iOS. Keep your devices secure with features like email protection. Bitdefender keeps an eye on incoming mail and lets you know when something looks fishy. Complete real-time data protection, the most efficient, all-encompassing security option, detecting viruses, worms, ransomware, and more. Your data stays private and safe. Vulnerability assessment. Bitdefender will check your system for where you can improve security and even offer solutions like updating outdated software, patch Windows, and flag unsafe system settings. Bitdefender does all of this while also being aware of your current activity on your PC, so it can halt certain processes to not impact performance when you need it. Rest easy with great privacy options like microphone and webcam protection, so you know when apps are trying to access your devices, or Bitdefender's firewall to keep data snoopers out. You can check out Bitdefender Premium Security today via our link in the description below. Keep your systems running safely with Bitdefender, and thank you to Bitdefender for sponsoring today's video and keeping hot news running safely. Well, it looks like Tesla needs a defender for their 8-bit truck, which the Cybertruck, because they're now finally adding a generic skid plate. They're calling it battery armor and rock slider retrofit, something that goes on the underside of the Cybertruck, something that wasn't available at launch. This is coming from the lead Cybertruck engineer, that they will have this available by the end of 2024. And it comes at the time where there's this viral video going around out on the internet of somebody taking their Cybertruck and driving it through vinyl posting, which, you know, most trucks probably could generically handle, but because of the lack of that protection underneath, the vinyl jammed itself into the battery reservoir and coolant leaked out, and so it made it so that the truck didn't work no more because there's no protection underneath the truck. So they're fixing that, and Microsoft is allegedly fixing their financials by laying off 650 more people. This is coming after the Activision Blizzard deal that happened for $69 billion, and it's in addition to the 1,900 jobs that they axed earlier this year. So people finding out that they are losing their jobs yesterday, with Microsoft continuing to slash jobs after this merger, which seems to be very unfortunate. With Microsoft clarifying, though, that no games, devices, or experiences are being canceled today. No studios are being closed as part of these adjustments today, unlike the previous one, which saw various studios shut down. But in case you shut down Star Wars Jedi Survivor because it didn't run very well on your PC, you might want to give it another go, because there's a new patch that allegedly fixes all of the PC issues that were in there. Maybe not all of them, but PC optimization patch has finally dropped, something that they promised when it came out about a year ago. But they fixed several sources of frame rate hitching, and there's various frame rate improvements and ray tracing's been optimized, and performance related using mouse as a gameplay input has all been adjusted, but also coincidentally at the same time, which may or may not be related. I'm sure conspiracy theorists out on the internet can take this. De novo DRM was removed, so don't know if those are related. Potentially, potentially not. And then Cyberpunk also updating because they gave us FSR 3. CD Projekt Red, even though they said that they're done updating this game, dropping Fidelity FX Super Resolution 3 for Cyberpunk 2077 and its expansion. Additionally, this includes frame generation. They're adding support for Intel's XeSS 1.3 as well, updating it so that you can run deep learning, anti-aliasing, and ray reconstruction at the same time. There's just a whole bunch of updates that have come out ever since CD Projekt Red said that they were effectively done with this game, so it's good to see that it's there. In case you're running this on an AMD GPU, you potentially now have a better boost coming out for you. And I'm gonna boost this opportunity to say Reece isn't doing deals today for no super secret special reason. I don't know what you're talking about. It has nothing to do with the thing I mentioned at the beginning of a hot news today. It's just not relevant at all. But, you know, sometimes I like to consider us as one big happy family here at UFD Tech. That's really weird and, you know, typical cliche of employers. But this is my segue to get to Valve unveiling Steam Families over on Steam. In case you want to use this, this is kind of a upgraded version of their family view where you can kind of monitor what children were doing as parents. But now it actually upgrades it so that you can share games between family members. You can have up to 6 people, one main person plus 5 different kids, and it allows you to share games between these people. One of the big upgrades is that you can now play a game on your own Steam library, and one of your family members can also play a different game from that same Steam library. It allows you to share your experience and is not locked down like it tends to be on certain consoles where you can't play at the same time. However, if you own multiple copies of that same game, then you can play that same game simultaneously. If you do not own multiple copies, you can play separate games, not the same game at the same time, but it does have to be permitted by the game developer for that to happen. However, Valve does have a list of games that are supported for this. So this appears to be pretty neat. There are a few mitigations in place, such as if you're an adult and you leave a family group, you have to wait an entire year before you can join or create a new family. So this is not for people to hop around. Additionally, you have to be in the same country as the other people that are part of your family, which is probably there to mitigate against pricing disparity, vulnerability advantage taking is what I'm trying to say. It seems to be a very great feature. It makes it easier for me as a dad. I know at this point where now I can connect my account to my kids and then we could play games at the same time, because that's been one of the big problems is if I have gaming time, that means they're likely also playing video games, and so it's made it tricky. But now if we're not playing the same game, we're good to go. And if you're looking to fix your device, you might be good to go with iFixit's brand new soldering iron, which they're bringing out that they've developed in order to make it so that it's easier for you to solder things on the go. It's a 100-watt iron that can be powered from a USB-C power source, or can come with a 55-watt-hour battery bank in case you want to upgrade to that version, or they have an entire soldering kit that you can get, something that iFixit's bringing out because they've noticed that there is a lack of good mobile soldering stations that are out on the market. It'll be available in about 1 month on October 15th. The soldering iron itself will cost you $80. The soldering station and the battery pack will cost you $250, and the toolkit will cost you $300, which you get some additional accessories for that. It's great to see iFixit bringing this out and making it so that they're bringing solutions to problems that they're seeing out in the market, which is exactly what Elgato's doing as well. They've partnered up with BitFocus to come out with a professional broadcasting stream deck. This thing is launching where it's got 32 different buttons that are meant to be slotted into a rack-mounted solution. So if you're doing any sort of professional production, they've partnered with BitFocus, who's a major player in the space, to bring this out. It's impressive. It seems like they're doing the right thing here, but bringing kind of the gaming streaming side over into more professional broadcasting. It's going to cost $900. It's not for gamers hardly at all, but it is intriguing to see that Elgato is bringing that out. And Nvidia brought out a brand new graphics card, the RTX 4070 GDDR6 edition. Lacks the 6X. It's slower by 1 gigabit per second on that memory, but benchmarks coming out and finding how bad is it at games? Well, mostly the same as long as you play at 1080 or 1440p. As soon as you start to bump up to 4K, you start to lose a few FPS. In some games like Metro Exodus Extreme, you're losing over 10% of FPS, but for most part at 1080 or 1440p, you're looking at a 0.2% difference, but some games can take a major hit at 4K. In case you were using your 4070 play at 4K, which is not going to be many individuals, but it's worse at that point in case you were thinking of using it. And in case you were thinking about using Threadripper, the older generations are no longer supported software-wise in AMD's Ryzen Master software. AMD dropping support for the Threadripper 1 and 2000 chips. These high-end desktop CPUs are going away, at least in terms of official software support on Windows. You can still download the older version of Ryzen Master in case you still have these CPUs, but it's being discontinued moving forward for this 6 and 7-year-old CPU respectively. This is a bummer because the last time that AMD seriously competed in that high-end desktop space kind of was back with Threadripper 1 and 2000. 3000 was a weird broken promise of nonsense. I don't think 4000 existed. 5000 was when they just went to workstation, and they kind of brought back high-end desktop with Threadripper 7000, but it's yet to really take on a form where it seems to be more accessible like these CPUs were back then, especially because I built a Threadripper editing rig 6 years ago with the 1950X. I remember making this. It was a huge deal for me back in the day, actually getting Threadripper 1950X. But then when Catelyn joined the team, we actually built her an editing rig with a Threadripper 2950X. So just kind of the history of these massive CPU core count chips not being around anymore is a little saddening. You know, the 1950X, 2950X, those were both 16 core parts, and now that's being replaced with the 9950X, which, I mean, it's technically on the same platform, but you got more PCI Express lanes, you got quad channel memory. It made it better for professionals, and I would like to see the resurgence of high-end desktop. I don't know if it's going to happen. I don't know if there's enough money there for these companies to do it, but it was a nice place to be in when it existed, and I am sad that that era is over, but also I have moved on from it a long time ago, and maybe this is just nostalgia speaking. And you guys spoke a lot in yesterday's episode of Hot News. Let's read the comments on YouTube. We got Ultra Vegito saying, is this new Chinese GPU not manufactured by More Threads? Which is correct. It's actually manufactured by Longsun, which is a company that I think I briefly mentioned this. They do also do CPU. So I saw a few other responses where people were like, yeah, this has also happened with More Threads, where they said that they were equivalent to a 3060 and then it wasn't even like a 1030. I think I tried to acknowledge that of like, this is based on raw teraflop performance, and that software support is really where they're going to get bogged down. You can't actually think that you're going to use these in the same way that you would use an NVIDIA or an AMD GPU, but it is intriguing to see the development and just kind of document it as it moves forward, which is all I was really trying to get across with that part of Hot News yesterday. And then Shadow Lemon saying, I hope AMD and Intel GPUs can soon compete with NVIDIA GPUs, and I hope Intel won't completely die, because if that happens, AMD might make Zen 6%, Zen 7%, and Zen 0.8%. Okay, a couple of things here. AMD and Intel GPUs already compete with NVIDIA. They're not going for the crown, right? The 4090 has been untouched in the fastest gaming GPU that you can pick up. But the Arc A770 went toe-to-toe with the 3060, which was the relevant GPU when it came out at a price point that was much lower. It did have some driver issues, but at the same time, it did compete. AMD's GPUs are absolutely competing. A 7900 XTX, if you can get that at $900, you're getting an insane amount of GPU horsepower compared to what NVIDIA delivers you at the same price point with a 4070 Ti Super that sometimes goes for $900. Also, the idea that Intel's gonna die, I don't buy it. I think Intel, as far as I can see from their fundamentals, totally fine. I think there's just a lot of stock market shock going on with Team Blue. They're gonna be around. They're making CPUs. They're financially, as far as I can tell, fairly sound in terms of continuing to exist. That's my take on it. If you don't believe me, you know, that's fair. That's fair. I'm not a company runner of thousands of people. And then EIDJ Gaming saying, Brett talking about special guests from the team. Me eyes wide, whispering to meself, yummy yummy deal master. I don't know what you're talking about. And then Dan Sanger saying, Brett mixing up the Z's and Z's, keeping us guessing on whether he's American or Canadian or South African or what. And then as a non-native English speaker who learned it can be pronounced both ways, I don't even notice he's changing it. I do that on purpose. I learned to adapt my speech when I lived in South Africa. I learned to adapt my speech living here in Pittsburgh. I'll say yins. I'll do that. I'll say Zed. I don't mind. I'll call it a robot. I'll say donkey instead of thank you. I will just switch up everything I'm saying just to keep people on their toes. That's my plan. Z, Z, NZXT, NZXT, Z790, Z790. For the people who catch it, they can see that it's like, I'm kind of messing around. That's all I'm really hoping to deliver there. And I'm done delivering this episode of Hot News. We'll be back with more of the hottest tech news on Monday, methinks. See you then.